What's up, tribe? This is excuse me, this is gonna be a quick drop. This was a video that I was trying to get to you guys all week, but excuse me, I honestly just in the grand scheme of getting my other videos out, it just sort of ended up falling by the wayside. It's the last episode of Chasing Atlanta. Now, y'all know, if y'all are following Chasing Atlanta, you know anything about the show Chasing Atlanta, you know that they had the reunion on Wednesday. And I'm sure a lot of video has already leaked out. Mike and Ty, if you go to Mr. Ty Couture, or I'm sorry, Ty Couture TV is the name of their YouTube channel. He's done an actual vlog of the whole thing. So check that out and you can get a whole lot of information. Again, probably more than you're going to get from the reunion. But with that being said, so I'm not going to do like a play-by-play review of the last episode. I'm just going to kind of go through just a few highlights. And I'll do a review of the reunion. That's supposed to be up on Wednesday. And I'm going to leave a lot of my comments for the reunion. But what I want to say is this. I hate feeling like I'm repeating myself. And every time I look at an episode of Chasing Atlanta, I feel like my review is just going to be me repeating myself. And that's why I'm not going to do a play-by-play. This was part 2 of their Kumbaya session, where they were basically supposed to be getting together and hash out all their issues. And we know we left off with Montel storming out with him and Akeem getting into it. And they go in the parking lot, and they're able to talk him into coming back and finishing the session. And basically, he explains why he is so upset. And his thing is, first of all, he's upset because he's like, Akeem, if you knew something about my boyfriend, then just when you chose to tell me and how you chose to tell me made me feel some kind of way, because I wasn't sure what your intentions were. You've known me since December. You knew who my boyfriend was in December, yet you wait until March, when we're actually in the process of a breakup, to share some information with me. But then when him and Hakeem had a one-on-one, and something that Hakeem said really sort of made me look at him a little different in the situation. Because what he said happened was that Hakeem said he was dating the roommate of Montel's boyfriend. And he woke up in the middle of the night and the dude had gotten into bed with him and put his hands down his pants. And that's how he knew who Montel's boyfriend was. And that was his experience with him. And when Hakeem was talking, he actually broke down crying. He was like, I was processing that because, essentially, I think we tend to give passes in same-sex situations. Had that been a man that climbed in bed with a woman and put his hands down her pants while she was sleeping next to her boyfriend, who was the roommate, that would have been a whole different scenario. And that was what Hakeem was saying. Hakeem was like, that whole situation was something that I wasn't even comfortable really sharing. And so I think he was, you have to kind of see how it went down, but I think he was trying to explain why he wasn't so quick to just share what happened. And him and Montel were able to, I think Montel understood. I still think Montel had some reservations about the way the whole thing went down, but I think he was willing to accept Hakeem's explanation. Let me say that. But it was interesting because, again, I just think that we give passes in same-sex situations. I've seen it happen with women in domestic violence situations, or even men in domestic, when they're in same-sex relationships. People tend to look at it a little differently, especially when it's two men fighting. They don't look at it as a domestic dispute the same way as if it was a man and a woman fighting. You know what I'm saying? And I think it's the same thing. Like, can you imagine you fall asleep next to your boyfriend and you wake up and his roommate is in the bed with y'all with his hands down your pants? Like, that's not cool. And even if they had threesomes in the past, you don't just take it upon yourself to climb in the bed with me, Anyway, I'm not going to go down that road. But then we saw Q, and Q sort of had a little attitude. But where Q was coming from was like, look, I'm about my business. I'm here to I'm here about the business of business, and ain't none of y'all trying to do that. Like, we ain't had no business meetings since this season started. I haven't seen nobody doing nothing. He was like, for the exception of 1 or 2 people on this panel, ain't nobody here doing nothing. And he just had an attitude about it. He was like, we keep having these little petty beefs, and I'm just not here for it. Like, I'm about my business. I'm about trying to make some money. And if that's not what y'all trying to do, if y'all just want to hang out and have a good time, like, I can do that. But that's not what this was supposed to be. Excuse me. And so he sort of had like a little attitude about it. Like, he kind of came in, I felt like he came in there ready for something. You know what I mean? Like, he came in there like, But again, once again, what we're hearing is so much is happening behind the scenes. Like, shit that's not on the show keeps spilling over into these situations. And the producers are going to have to figure that out. I don't know how they're going to figure it out, but they're going to have to figure that out. Because if you want me to continue to watch a show, you can't keep bringing stuff that you didn't show me into the conflicts. I can't keep being a third party to the whole, I promise y'all, 70% of that Kumbaya session, they was talking about shit that we ain't know nothing about. I'm sitting there like, what? When did this happen? You did who? You was with when? Like, none of this situation was on camera. So this is supposed to be a reality show. We know reality ain't reality. We get it. We got that. And we know that once the cameras stop rolling, things continue to happen. But there has to be a way that you bring it into the storyline so that we as the viewers understand it and makes sense to us. The other thing I wanted to touch on was Sky shared some things that he was going through this season. He said, he was going through a lot, and it may have come out to be very aggressive. But he was like, I only got 2 gears. I don't have an in between. Either I'm in fight mode or I'm in calm and collected. Like, there's no middle for me. And he was saying that a lot happened this season, again, off camera. And, we know the whole Nico situation where he was Nico's manager. But then Nico was an executive producer on the show. And when Nico decided to leave the show, there was some conflict there. And that's where the problem with him and Gardini came into place. I'll come back to that. That'll be the last thing I kind of touch on. Then we saw where Sky was saying how he was evicted from his home during the season. He said that he didn't really get into the details. He just said due to him taking care of other people rather than taking care of himself. He had a death in the family. But then what we also found out is that his boyfriend had passed away. And at first he said the loss of my boyfriend. So at first I thought he was saying that they broke up, but then come to find out he actually passed away. And so Sky said, that's something I'm still mourning. And so when reality TV ain't always reality, and we ain't always getting what's really going on in these people's lives. And I just thought that was deep. I just thought that was a deep conversation that Sky had. The other thing that came up, because, Sky and Gardini had that really big conflict early on. We saw it in the Gardini takedown episode or whatever. And what we found out was that, Gardini's thing was, look, last season I was a fan of the show, but I was also a vlogger. Like, I made my money because I did blogging, I did YouTube, I did all these different things. And so people still knew me from that aspect. So when the whole thing went down with Nico no longer being a part of the show, I did talk to Nico and I did interview Nico, and there was going to be some sort of situation where they were going to try to bring Nico on the show through Gardini's storyline, and it was a mess is what it was. It was going to be some bullshit and some mess. And that's where Sky had the conflict with Gardini, because Sky was like, why were you inserting yourself in a situation you didn't have anything to do with? And Gardini's thing was, they brought it to me. He said, I didn't go looking for that. That came to me, and I was told or asked to put that out there, to put that out there, to do that part of the storyline. Like, I was asked to do that. And what was interesting was that Devon actually told Gardini, don't do it. Don't insert yourself in that. Don't be a part of that. It's a mess, and they setting you up. And he actually told him not to do it. And Gardini didn't do it, and Sky didn't even realize that Devon was the one telling Gardini not to do it. And so they hugged it out. They, you know, Sky actually hugged Devon and was like, thank you so much. I love you. Like, thank you for, you know, basically thank you for telling him not to do it and advising him against it. And you know, and he said to Gardini, because they kind of talked back and forth, and he was like, well, what did he tell you? And Gardini was like, if you listen to the interview, because Nico's done a couple of other interviews. I actually listened to one myself. And he doesn't really say anything negative about Sky, at least the version I heard. And he wasn't even negative about the show. He just said they just sort of had some creative differences, and he chose to leave the show. Like, it just wasn't what he thought it was going to be, and he chose to leave. You know, he just chose to leave. He had other things he was getting into, and other ways he was doing some things and making some moves, and chose not to do it anymore. But Sky thought it was bashing of him, and he thought that's what it was going to be. So that's where their conflict was. And then, but they, like I said, but they hug it out. They end up hugging it out, and I think it was sincere. Like, they were crying, and I think it was sincere. At least that aspect of it, I really do think was sincere. And I think that Sky and Gardini actually were able to get to a better place. I do. Last but not least, on this particular episode, I really recommend you guys, if you don't, like I said, their following is way bigger than mine, so I'm sure you guys already know who I'm talking about. But you guys really need to go to Thai Couture TV, TAI Couture TV. They have done interviews with Gardini, Q, Cameron, and Eric from the show. And next week they're supposed to do. They're supposed to interview the executive producer of the show. You get so much more information by watching their interviews than honestly you get from the show. To be honest, I'm just gonna be real with you. And they're supposed to have Jaylon, so that would be very interesting. But the episode ends with Jaylon actually opening up his store. He has a grand opening, and they go through the whole rigmarole of that. And what's interesting to me is Jaylon was surprised that only two people from the cast showed up, which was Cameron and Eric. And he was actually surprised by that. Well, why were you surprised that they didn't come to your grand opening? You treated them like shit the whole season. Talked about them like shit, treated them like shit, acted like you was the shit. Why would they come out and support you at an event? You know, karma's a bitch, and you get back what you put out. And I don't know why you expected them to come out and support you. And even in that, you were being a bitch. I just wanted to show them how a real boss does things. Like, they need to come out here and learn from me that this is how a real boss does things. But you wonder why nobody came out there to support you. Anyway, y'all, that's where the episode ends. I don't think I missed nothing major. And if I did, drop it in them comments and let me know. But the reunion will be out next week. And like I said, there are a lot of clips that are already out there because it wasn't a closed set. Like, I don't understand. Like, Mike and Ty vlogged the whole damn. I mean, they didn't show actual footage of. Well, actually, they did have some footage of the actual damn reunion. Because they didn't take their phones. And they didn't tell them they couldn't videotape. Because you could see other people with their phones out and taping and stuff. So, I thought that was kind of sloppy on their part. Like, you're doing a reunion. Like, for example, the Love and Hip Hop Atlanta reunion was this weekend. And we know stuff because people went on their social. Like, Erica Mena went on her social media and told some shit. But you ain't got no footage of it. And Erica Mena probably wasn't supposed to say what she said. But when these shows do their reunions, you hear little bits and pieces, and some of the bloggers might get some sneak peek stuff from some friends that they know that work on the crew. But for the most part, we don't know none of that. We don't know nothing that happened for sure. You know, we might hear a little, like I said, we hear a little tidbit here and there, but we damn sure ain't got no footage of it. So anyway, I will say this. I don't know who's coming back next season. They don't even know who's coming back next season. But there is going to be a Chasing Dallas spinoff. And like I said, I think I told y'all. So we'll see how that goes. We'll see what's going on with that. But again, y'all drop it in them comments. Y'all let me know what y'all think. Peace.